So.
Oh, of course. And when they
Right? Oh, that's loud. This is in the room, but very quiet. We tried plugging it in there, and it didn't seem to work. So, which is it's possible that that tape. They tried plugging it directly into the. Actually, you know what? Something we could do. Check, check, check. So this is just low. Okay, so it's a microphone.
everyone. We're going to test this. Hopefully it's not too loud. I'm trying to project moderately, which is always a strange... Okay, so maybe just 2 more minutes. Get your coffee. There are sandwiches. I know it's dark. People are arriving still, so we'll get started here in just a few.
Good morning, everyone. Okay, let's go ahead and get seated. I see our virtual... It's too much fun to visit. We haven't had much opportunity to do that. I see our virtual attendees are here today, so are already online, so thank you. Commissioner Hardesty and Councilor Lewis, thank you. Nice to have you here. So welcome to the 4th workshop of the Joint Policy Advisory Committee and the Metro Council's workshop series, getting ready to adopt at some point in the near future the 2023 Regional Transportation Plan. And so today's focus is the High Capacity Transit Plan. So welcome everyone to be here to have this discussion. So I'm going to call roll as I've before. I'll call it in 2 ways. First, the Joint Policy Advisory Committee, and then members, and then the Metro Council. So first of all is Commissioner Jessica Vega Peterson. I was told there was going to be a staff person here. I don't see that. Okay. Washington County Chair Catherine Harrington. Welcome. Nice to have you. Okay. Clackamas County Commissioner Paul Savas. Thank you. Okay. City of Portland Commissioner Joanne Hardesty. Good morning. The cities of Multnomah County, Mayor Travis Stovall. Not yet. Okay. The cities of Washington County, Mayor Steve Calloway. Mayor? And he took light rail today, speaking of high capacity transit. Cities of Clackamas County, Councilor Kathy Heisey. I understand she is ill, okay. And the Department of Transportation, Region 1, Manager Ryan Winsheimer. Welcome. TriMet, General Manager Sam Dessou. Okay, thank you. Port of Portland, General Manager Curtis Robinhold. Department of Environmental Quality, I will get it soon. Where's the Kalele? I'm getting closer, thank you. Metro Councilor Juan Carlos Gonzalez. I understand he may be joining us. He's getting ready to get on an airplane. Okay, and then Metro Councilor Christine Lewis.
Present.
Okay, thank you. Washington Department of Transportation, Carly Francis. City of Vancouver, Mayor McInerney Ogle. Thank you. Nice to have you. Thank you. And then Clark County Councilor Temple Lenz. Okay, I'm going to call Metro Councilors. Metro Council President Lynn Peterson. Metro Councilor Duncan Wong. Thank you. Metro Councilor Garrett Rosenthal. Thank you. And Metro Councilor Mary Nolan. Okay, nice to have you. Thank you. So today's focus, as I mentioned, is on the high capacity transit plan. We've already done staff have already been working on getting things kicking off to focus on both the policy framework and then begin to refine the network vision. And so to get together, we will look at what is the future for high capacity transit in the Portland metro region, and then identify those policies that need to support that vision. And then the key cornerstones for success. What's going to make the system successful and be a system that will be robust and available to more people? So we're developing the equity, focusing on safety, focusing on the value of high capacity transit, on how it reduces our greenhouse gas emissions, and our mobility goals of how make it easier to get around this region. So building from that policy framework, staff have developed an approach to reimagine how this is going to work, a stronger, more expanded system, serving more people, and then how it focuses and supports our regional needs, and then maximizes our regional priorities, while keeping our funding and our capital constraints in mind, because we recognize that high capacity transit is a pretty significant financial challenge. So our input today is to solidify this policy framework and to shape the development of the refined network vision, and then to guide the future work around assessing our corridor readiness and for the investment process. So I'm going to turn this over now to Deputy Council President Christine Lewis to have the podium next. So Councilor Lewis.
Thank you so much. I am going to take the virtual podium just for a few minutes to share remarks, since the high capacity transit policy has been identified as a priority for the 23 RTP. No matter what part of the region people live in, or where they go every day, or how they get there, transportation is what brings us together. The people of our region have told us loud and clear that they deserve a better transportation future that aligns with their values and with safe communities. And we're here today to talk about our strategy for high capacity transit for the RTP. High capacity transit is the backbone. It is what gives us the ability to grow strong limbs for our transit network. It moves a lot of people quickly and frequently, and we have a little bit of high capacity transit in our region. We've got light rail, we've got commuter rail, Max and West, and we are also working towards bus rapid transit and that FX bus. Now is the right time to focus on building the capacity and efficiency of HCT in our system. HCT is high capacity transit for those of us who want to avoid acronyms. And it's time to align our regional goals and transit vision in a way that really provides community benefit. High capacity transit is more important than ever as we look to address current challenges around ridership and service. And we have heard from people, really important for us to uh, make it so that they have real alternatives to driving. High capacity transit makes our transportation system more equitable for people who rely on transit, including people with low incomes, people of color, and people who live with disabilities and all abilities. And it's high capacity transit, again, that is one of the benchmarks for making sure that we have a complete policy focus and updates in the 23 RTP. By building our strategy for high capacity transit, we can envision a stronger foundation for our entire transit network and set this stage for the transportation future we all hope and dream of. Thanks for being here today. Thanks to all the technology wizards who have made this our first hybrid workshop like this. And I look forward to all of our work today. I hear there are big maps in the room, and I'm really jealous that I don't get to play with big maps. So have fun. Talk to you all soon.
Thank you, Councilor Lewis, very much. So Brandy, welcome again. Brandy Stefan is with JLA Public Involvement, and she, of course, has been helping us with facilitating this discussion. So Brandy, nice to have you here again. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Craddock. All right, so just a quick review of our agenda today, and then we'll jump into our conversations because we know we want to get to those big maps. So we are going to have some context setting and some background, and we have a community representative, Trevor Attenberg, here. And then we'll have a quick overview by Margie Bradway. Then we will go into the specifics about high capacity transit system planning, and that's where we'll get to start for the big maps. So we'll have 45 minutes for that mapping exercise where you can talk in the small groups, and then we'll do a report back. And so for those of you who are online, I think you have this, everyone should have this document. Hopefully it's been sent to you. And you can look through, and we will be explaining it in a little bit, but hopefully you can participate online, and then we can have a report out from you at the end, and then a report out from the room. And that's what we've got today. So thank you for braving the weather and the dark, and I will hand it off to Trevor. Thank you.
Is this the mic? Oh, there's a mic. Gotcha. Hi there. Morning. My name is Trevor Attenberg once again, and thank you very much for having me. I am not originally from Portland. I moved here about a decade ago from the northeastern U.S. A major reason for that was the public transit that was offered in Portland, which I, upon visiting, immediately thought was remarkable, at least compared to where I had been in some old mill towns in the Northeast, in Massachusetts and Connecticut. I consider myself a highly mobile and independent person. I'm legally blind, so I don't drive. But I do get around quite a bit. A major function of that, of course, is transit. Having those rides to get me from place to place. Right now, some major destinations in my trajectory include my commute to work. I'm working currently at Portland Community College, Sylvania campus primarily. I'm an accessibility technician there. That's my primary role. I also tutor and do some other things. Also working for community engagement liaison services outside of that. But I have a daily commute to PCC Sylvania. I also I have some friends that I frequently. I should point out that I'm currently residing in Northwest Portland, Old Town Chinatown. Frequently commute via the 20 bus to Southeast Salmon, 142nd, where I have some friends I meet up with. I also frequently take the Blue Line to Tualatin Hills Nature Park and Merlot Road stop. I used to work there actually, and I still really love to visit. It's a great place to just be able to take an evening or weekend stroll at will. I talked about my independence and my mobility being a function of public transit. And I talked about the good, it being a strength of Portland that drew me here. However, the limitations that I have as far as getting around are concerned are largely likewise limitations with the public transit. For instance, I take the 44 bus to work each day at PCC. I consider it a pretty comfortable ride. It picks up right near my door, my apartment building. However, it usually doesn't get me there until before a half hour prior to the start of my work, which, given that it's about a 40-minute bus ride, means that I have to put aside at least 70 minutes each way, going to and from my home, going to and from PCC Sylvania. On the other hand, this would probably be even more of an issue had it not been something so important as my work. I believe that if, say, this was just a casual trip, and I knew that if I was to miss a connection due to not having the right information, or just missing the bus leaving too early, too soon, if that made my commute, say, 2 hours long, that would be too much. That would keep me from traveling to a destination, a casual destination. We talk about transit routes in terms of demand and transporting the greatest load of people, the greatest need, accommodating the greatest need. But what about those tenuous routes? I ask you, those situations where we don't go people aren't going to places simply because it's not convenient to get there. And I think when the commute becomes too long or too risky, when missing a stop, confusing a stop becomes too big of a risk, I think we start to see that particular problem. When I talk to other disabled commuters, especially in the blind community, I hear this a lot about routes being too long, about there being risk of missing a stop. I also hear about issues involving the pickup locations themselves and inconsistencies. And sometimes that's a matter of information that we receive. For instance, I may know based on the PDX Bus app or the website that there is maybe the 20 bus, for example, stops at Stark and 138th. But that doesn't tell me what side of 138th it gets off at. It gets off on the far side. I wouldn't realize that. So it's that's a kind of a matter of information. It's a matter of consistency. And talking to folks using wheelchairs, mobility aids. We also get into issues of poor surface and poor clearance, landmarks and things like that. So what I see primary issues are consistency and good information, along with this solid coverage from buses that offer the most options. I can't really speak to all disabilities. They're quite different, just like I can't really speak to the needs that the whole blind community might express. But this is my understanding of things based on, the experience of a well-traveled, legally blind person, and I hope that's of use to you.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me? Yeah, my name is Margie Bradway. I'm the Deputy Director of the Planning, Development, and Research Department. It was incredibly grounding to hear from a community member as we begin our work today. I want to kick us off to get us in the right mind space of what we're doing today. So we've heard from Chair Craddock and Councilor Lewis about how important high capacity transit is. We have in the Portland region an incredibly proud history. Our light rail system is known nationwide, and it came about in the 1970s. We actually started with trolleys, I believe. Sam, you probably know this history, but really in 1974 was our first light rail line. And we continued to grow and continue to grow, but that happened because we had a vision, and that happened because we had a plan. And when I started working in transportation 20 years ago, we called it the pipeline of the next light rail project that's going to come on to imagine and to realize the vision of connecting our centers and our corridors. It is in building that pipeline, understanding what is next, where do we need to build our system out, is incredibly important in terms of bringing federal dollars home. We are doing this exercise at an incredibly important time when there's a huge federal bill. I know many of you have gone on the JPACT trips, right? And the lines that we are working on today, the BRT at 82nd Avenue, the BRT and TV Highway, and light rail and Southwest Corridor, those were lines on the map 10 years ago because planners started to look at the data, look at the maps, take into account density, affordable housing, economic centers to build that pipeline out. That's what has made us incredibly competitive to bring that federal funding home. And also, it's made a great place for this region for people to live, right? And we pair that with TOD, transit-oriented development, and other economic development strategies to realize both our centers and our corridors in the 2040 growth plan. So I can't underscore how important this plan is, how important it is for us to build a pipeline to be that national leader, for us to take that JPACT trip and articulate to FTA and FHWA and our Congress people, we have a plan and we have a vision to continue to make our region a great place to live. So with no further ado, I'm going to introduce Allie Holmquist, incredible senior planner, who's going to walk us through the draft plan before you get into your exercise. So take it away, Allie.
Thank you so much, Margie, and good morning, everyone. It's wonderful to see you here. So at JPACT last week, you heard a little bit about Forward Together, and that's TriMet's proposed short-term concept for growing transit service in the coming years. This concept will help inform the future transit networks in the 2023 Regional Transportation Plan, shaped by our regional investment priorities and the transit network vision established in the Regional Transit Strategy. That strategy includes many tools in the toolbox. Thank you, Brandy. for meeting transit needs in our region, like regional bus to help people get where they need to go, frequent bus to help them get there more conveniently, and bus on shoulder and better bus to help them get there on time. And high capacity transit as well, like light rail, rapid bus, rapid streetcar, to get them to major activity hubs faster, more reliably, conveniently, and comfortably. And that's our focus for today. Reimagining a stronger, expanded high-capacity transit system to best serve growing and changing regional needs, a key cornerstone for success in shaping our vision for compact land use development and achieving our equity, safety, climate, and mobility goals. Next slide, Connor. So high-capacity transit has a level of service, enhanced amenities, and street priority implemented as part of a corridor-level capital project that work together to move the most people between areas with a mix of destinations and activity most of the day. It needs to be direct and have as much priority as possible to achieve high levels of speed and reliability, and it needs to serve places with a mix of many destinations to be cost-effective and achieve mobility and climate outcomes in line with our investment priorities. And this is also how the Federal Transit Administration assesses the competitiveness of projects for new and small starts funding. Next slide, Connor. And so the role for this type of transit in the regional system is really about supporting the 2040 growth concept and the dense development envisioned in that blueprint. Our 2009 high-capacity transit plan envisioned the network as light rail, thinking a lot more about New Starts funding, and primarily connecting regional centers with the central city to move people efficiently between hubs of commerce and supporting development in dense areas. And that's because it's the right tool as the type of transit with the highest capacity to meet the demand in and draw from those places. Plus, due to the high level of service and higher capital cost, it needs to serve people along the highest volume corridors with high activity in order to be successful and cost effective and achieve the highest outcomes for regional goals. And that's along the lines of a threshold of 50 or more people or employees per acre. Next slide. And that's how our current high-capacity transit network has developed as a hub and spoke system today. But we're already leveraging additional opportunities in our planning work, thinking about rapid bus and small starts opportunities to strengthen connections within the central city, between regional centers along major travel corridors, thinking about 82nd Avenue, and expanding to include connections to town centers as well, thinking about TB Highway. And that's because rapid bus in particular can move almost as many people as light rail and leveraging our existing streets for greater capital cost effectiveness. So while it still needs to serve dense places with high levels of activity along major mobility corridors, it doesn't need quite the threshold of activity that light rail does to be successful, more around 20 to 25 people or employees per acre. Next slide, please. And so for all of these reasons, we have an opportunity to think about new connections linking other town centers, major town centers, with hubs of activity, and thinking about how our existing network could be intensified through investment or complementary connections that could be made to encourage more people to use transit. And that's something that we're seeing in the data. Looking at the size of the arrows on this map, there are a lot of major travel patterns happening outside of the central city between regional centers, demonstrating the need for high-capacity transit. This is very similar to what you saw in the emerging trends work and in the analysis that Forward Together did. And further looking at the color of the arrows on this map, the yellows, the oranges, the reds, there are a lot of places where those major travel patterns take 2, 3, even 4 times longer by transit than by driving. Beyond places that need a better base level of transit service, these indicators together are showing us where faster, more reliable, and convenient high-capacity transit connections are needed. Next slide, please. So in reimagining high-capacity transit, we're taking a closer look at how we fill in the gaps, both rethinking about how we might make connections that have been on the map since 2009, and what other connections are emerging in the current environment today, thinking about how we've changed, how major destinations are increasing in importance in this post-COVID world, thinking about medical institutions, major educational institutions, thinking about major employers as well, and even thinking about what other connections we could be thinking about across the river, thinking about other investments that we could be making to strengthen the system, similar to the Better Red project that is currently underway. Next slide, please. And so today we're asking you to help us do that by creating your own vision for high capacity transit. So we'll be asking each table to do this exercise regionally to work together on all of these considerations. So you'll see that the map on your table, which looks like this, includes the existing high capacity transit network in dark blue, something to consider connecting to as you make new connections or as you consider which connections should be strengthened. And that map also includes corridors where high capacity planning efforts are already underway in light green. And those either have or are working towards a locally preferred alternative and are ready for high capacity transit. And consistent with our near-term fiscally constrained approach in the 2018 Regional Transportation Plan, these we're proposing as the top tier of projects. This is also something to consider as you build your vision. And you'll also see many light blue lines on this map, and these are the corridors where frequent bus service is envisioned in the future to support our regional goals. And these are the best candidates for thinking about where we can take frequent bus to the next level in envisioning a trip that is faster, more reliable, and more comfortable. Next slide, please. So from those light blue corridors, we're asking you to highlight 3 near-term priority corridors to advance in the 2030 timeframe in green, 6 midterm developing corridors to advance in the 2040 timeframe of the RTP in orange, and then 7 longer-term vision corridors outside of the fiscally constrained or even the RTP timeframe. And these numbers aren't random. They're based on the scale of investment opportunities identified in the 2009 High Capacity Transit Plan and the number of projects in the 2018 Regional Transportation Plan, looking at a total of about 20 to 25. And that's also based on Metro and TriMet's history of success, advancing one corridor through the federal development process about every 3 years. And while there are more federal funding opportunities today, and we could be thinking about directing additional investment towards high capacity transit investment to bolster this number, some of this constraint is also just based on staff capacity across agencies and partnerships needed to advance corridors through that process. And so with these limitations, we're asking you to consider these same constraints when thinking about timing and readiness related to what corridors we should look towards advancing next. Next slide, please. And so then the results of your visioning work will look a lot like the 2009 plan in terms of scale and structure, but maybe a bit or maybe a lot different than what the actual network looks like. And so we're looking to apply a similar approach so that the reimagined vision, while updated to reflect emerging regional priorities, has a similar feel. Next slide, please. And then as you go about this work today, we're also asking you to consider the elements of the policy framework that we've worked to develop with the working group. And so that's thinking about the role for high capacity transit in the regional network, thinking about going beyond connections to the central city and strengthening connections between regional centers, and also thinking about new connections expanding to major town centers. Next slide, please. And we're also asking you to consider what we've heard from the community. Consider what Trevor shared with us today about faster trips, creating better cross-regional connections outside the central city and direct connections to community hubs, major stores, and healthcare services, adding and improving connections to jobs, essential services, and other major destinations, making connections more quick, convenient, and comfortable. The 44 is one example on your map as a strong candidate for this, as we heard about earlier. Increasing travel reliability, particularly where buses get stuck in traffic today, and then complementing where service provides key critical connections where there's already a lot of need today. Next slide, please. And then we're also asking that you think about key indicators that a high capacity transit investment will be successful. It will result in outcomes in line with regional goals and be competitive for new and small starts funding based on the program criteria. And that includes thinking about where people are riding today and where they're expected to ride in the future, connections linking the most people and historically marginalized communities to major destinations, how long a transit trip takes compared to other travel options, how many new riders could be created in support of our climate goals through an investment, thinking a little bit about reducing vehicle miles traveled and mode shift, thinking about the cost effectiveness of the investment, and then the level of demonstrated local commitment and funding available to support investment in the corridor. Next slide, please. And so we've provided a few resources today with some of that information related to the major indicators. Some of you have seen already have been looking at the table booklet that includes a couple of maps, the first being future ridership expected on candidate corridors at a high, medium, and low level, towards demonstrating some of the mobility and climate benefits from particular corridor investments, and as well as information about where high-capacity transit supportive land use densities exist today, shown in yellow on that map. And you'll notice that the areas where expected ridership is higher generally does follow where frequent bus service does exist today, and also along major highways where demand is high. We're looking at both current and future ridership as part of this work, but the federal criteria does actually place more emphasis on existing ridership potential now than it has in the past. Next slide, please. And that booklet also includes a map showing the location of the 2020 equity focus areas from the Regional Transportation Plan, showing where communities of color, households with low incomes, or limited English proficiency live, as well as which corridors provide the most access for these areas, again on a high, medium, and low scale. Next slide. And then we're also asking that you think about which corridors are more ready and showing higher levels of readiness when you highlight your green and orange priorities. Thinking about what places have a compact urban form that place the destinations near transit and encourage walking and rolling. A dense mix of uses, a balance of jobs and housing, creating a place where activity occurs most of the day. A mix of many and diverse essential services near transit. Good street connectivity with safe, direct, and convenient access to walk and roll to transit stops and stations, and streets that could, or maybe already do, include elements prioritizing transit. And then also where plans, strategies, and partnerships support development of these places in the future, thinking about creating more transit supportive places and streets, as well as supporting community stability. Next slide, please. And then finally, we're asking you to think a little bit about network design. So does your vision include both north-south and east-west connections? Are there connections across the region and connecting a lot of places in the region? And then are the connections maybe not too close together where they're right on top of each other and might be within walking distance? Next slide, please. And so with that, I'm going to turn it back to Brandy to kick off the activity. We can put slide 8 with the instructions back on the screen, but know that that's also the first page of your booklet as well. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you, Allie. Okay, so that was a lot of information. So if you're confused, that's okay. So what we're going to do is we are going to open up those big maps on our tables. So you'll want to clear off your space. Yes, Commissioner Savis.
So the question, do we have any maps that show where people work, where heat maps for all that activities? It seems to me that the way this appears to be, I've been listening intently, the areas that are well served are going to be better served. The areas that are underserved are not going to see much benefit. That's peak hour time for people. Right now, it's very good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see anything guide us on how to make those decisions.
Yeah, so the question was if there is a map that shows employment areas and travel patterns to help serve those locations.
For example, regional centers,
Mm-hmm.
shopping centers,
Yeah.
aren't where a lot of people are going.
Yeah. So, Allie, I'm wondering if you can answer this question. Okay. And meanwhile, everyone's going to get sorted out. And then
So Commissioner, we do have a map at the table, at the staff table in the back. It's a larger tool that shows major travel patterns more broadly. We don't have anything in the booklet today, but we could walk through some of that if you have particular areas in mind. Yes.
So, all right, everybody looks like they're going. I'll check in with you. Okay, this is where I would play the Jeopardy song if I was that well. All right, you good? Yep. Okay. All right, everyone. We're going to have you sit down and we're going to have some report back. So for everyone online, if you can turn your cameras on if you're participating virtually. And for those of you who are in the room, I will be asking you here in just a second to report back on your colorful conversations. Maybe we'll start with the green color first, but I do want to see if anyone is participating online and wants to give us their thoughts. I'm not seeing anybody pop up yet. So just make sure you turn your cameras on. Great, I see one, Commissioner Lewis. Okay. All right, so I think we're gonna maybe go by color, just hear what you think about that short term, perhaps before 2030, so in the next 10 years, or less than 10 years already. So these were the ones that you highlighted in green. So I think we can just do kind of the organic popcorn. So any thoughts that you had about what you selected? I know some people were hesitant.
We're not hesitant. Highlighted ML
Okay.
instead of this. Actually pretty smart. A lot easier.
Connects, by the way, connects
Rapid transit.
the Sunrise Corridor, Highway 212, Highway 213, Highway 43, Highway 99E,
Do you want me to hold
obviously when
yours?
it gets to the I-5 corridor, but there's a lot of highways that plug into that, so. That's,
And I just add to that, it goes a little beyond Tualatin into the industrial area, the jobs area, between Tualatin and Sherwood and Wilson.
Can't see there is what we wrote there in jobs, so we wrote down all the earthwork jobs and thought that would be a factor in what we planned.
But in addition to that, from Portland's perspective, MLK North, as well as the Burnside corridor, all the way connecting to Peterson to respective proposed.
Is that Burnside or Powell?
And then Powell, we also marked that down, so Powell.
Here's Burnside. Okay. Thank you.
Sam, you had an idea about it.
Yes, this was connecting.
Commissioner Savage was talking a little bit about really looking at how do we, where are people coming from?
The transit. Yeah, it's a yellow line. Okay. Or not yellow, that's the orange line.
Telling them that at
Yes,
one
okay.
location, we wanted to really look at that and track where people were going and coming from. So we worked with an organization out of Boston that was able to buy cell phone in that city where I was working at. And they purchased cell phone data to look at the locations where people were. And we were able to track exactly where people were located at so that we can have kind of a shuttle circulation going to those locations to be able to serve people. So that may be something that we want to look at, is look at cell phone data. The other thing that he brought up also was taking a helicopter up in the morning and just kind of looking at traffic and looking at the patterns that people are actually operating in.
Yeah, great. All right. Anybody else want to share about their short-term items in green? Do we want to go to this second table?
I feel like I'm back in high school. Yes. for us, everything's a grid, right? Everything needs to be done later. But we wanted to make sure that there was alternatives, for where
Let me trade you.
okay,
Let me trade
where tolling is being considered, then we needed to make sure that we offer alternatives, okay? Because if we're gonna try then to get people out of cars, then we need to give them an option. And that option shouldn't be driving through neighborhoods. So that's why we focused on this area. We also looked at, from Oregon City and Gladstone up into Milwaukee, again, which would connect up into Portland. We need a rapid bus transit on Highway 26 because we know there are a lot of folks who would take Max into Sunset Transit Center, but then don't want to go on the milk run through Western Washington County. So, up into the employment center of Bethany and Northern Hillsborough would address that. We know that Cornelius, Forest Grove and Cornelius on into, Beaverton is scheduled for high capacity. But again, I'm just going to say you can't have enough buses and enough capacity to support all of the low-income folks and commuters that are in Western Washington County, Cornelius. We want to see something from, again, Tualatin on up into, Cedar Mill area. And then the Northern Arterial, since I finally get a chance to throw it in there, this would take a lot of the freight and commercial off of 26 and would give us a good hazardous route as well as options for Max, and it connects into Employment Center up along Columbia Marine Drive. Duncan, do you want to talk about, I'll come hold while you talk about Multnomah County and head it out.
Yeah, two of the longer term projects we had were, of course, the employment corridor on Columbia. A lot of folks that live kind of east of 82nd work up in this corridor, so I think it'd be cool to take the 82nd Avenue BRT up and then have a circulator to connect them with jobs. And then a lot of folks that live in East Portland also kind of stay in East Portland, so having a circulator out in East Portland between Rockwood, Lentz, and Gateway I think would be really helpful too.
Great, thank you. All right, don't trip on this cord. Safety first. All right, group number 3. And I noticed there was an A+ on that one, so good work.
So,
Margie.
so our group was having trouble getting from the opportunity of so many blue lines to how do we get to discrete first category, second category, third category. So we first tried to identify where we would go from the large number of opportunities and then focus from there to a collection. And we didn't get to the discrete 3 categories. So I'll do the easy part first. Out here on the east side, we didn't need HCT necessarily, but recognized that there needs better connectivity, transit connectivity out here. And that's leveraging really great knowledge from Mayor Travis Stovall and Councilor Craddock. Here in Multnomah County and Clackamas County, we were trying to leverage some of what exists today. Some of us data nerds who really rely upon data to help us with informed decision making. Just we're looking for more data about population, congestion, things of, land use, all that. Well, which is why these are blue lines to begin with, right? So where we ended up with a really good, I think, collection of narrowing it down. We at first talked about better yellow so that it was more express, but moving forward, we realized that there's BRT opportunity on MLK, which we might focus on first. Chavez is another big opportunity, and then there's a loop opportunity right in here. Then we have a great orange line terminus here. Well, let's make sure we're leveraging all of that with better connectivity, more frequent connectivity from Oregon City up. We talked about the fact that there needs to be some bus access over in this part of Clackamas County as well. In this area, this black line is representing west. And if your schedule aligns to the limited access, great. But beyond that, you're out of luck. So just identifying that we can have an impact if we make this more frequent in some way, come up with some HCT solution.
Possibly with buses.
Yep. Also, 99W really needs better transit access and trying to leverage the opportunity there. Then here, these are all great lines, but how do we prioritize? Well, where I'm really recognizing that HCT, our HCT visioning has moved from, I'll be a little flippant here, a fascination with LRT only to now BRT and frequent bus and enhanced transit. So within this venue, we have opportunities where people are saying, I want more frequent and better north-south connection. So looking at these opportunities for BRT, but also looking at how we might have just a more frequent bus loop here, leveraging Sunset Transit Center and the opportunity of rooftops here. So, yep, that's how we got there.
Awesome. Thank you for explaining that. All right. Well, I feel like I limited you all to the green. Do you want to talk about any of your other ideas? I'm seeing yes. I'm seeing yes from Art. Okay, you both are coming on.
All right.
I'll hold it this way.
Maybe flip it around.
Down.
All right. Another key part of our conversation was looking a lot at the job centers, both out in Washington County and on the west side, as well as in Clackamas County. And so Paul identified a number of corridors there in which there's existing or future job growth that we would want to better connect. And concept of some hub and spokes that maybe were not central to downtown Portland, but maybe we're centering on Clackamas Town Center or Oregon City or some other area out there where there could be some radiating transit lines feeding into some of those higher capacity lines in those different locations. So those are some key ones. We also identified Cesar Chavez as a potential route, just like the other group, but it may be in the longer term. And then 122nd was another one that I had identified. Did I miss any other ones from our?
Washington County's industrial area. And where they go.
Oh yeah, and then a connection from Washington County industrial area to job centers and housing in North Portland was another key connection that we identified.
Great. Any questions? Questions from anyone about someone else's? And I think your mic is on your table too.
Oh, great. I don't know if any of the other tables had this conversation, but something I should have said up front, that we want to make sure it's clear. We have to make these existing green projects happen. We need to finish the planning and build them out. And we want to make sure that we don't lose sight of that, because there's hard financial work that needs to be done.
Great. And yeah.
Thank you, Councilor, for saying that. And I would also add, not losing sight of the person who spoke this morning, our person who talked about the need to access transit. There is huge financial need around do sidewalk connections, to focus on safe crossings of all of our existing routes. And as we start thinking about financial constraint and we need to look at every single one of those routes. Efficient. It's not just adding new, but it's making sure that we're. And I just don't want us to lose track of that. Just making it safe and easy to access, I think, would increase substantially and better serve our communities.
Great, and that's kind of going back to our last workshop where we talked about safety. Any other questions or thoughts today? No peer pressure? No, okay, okay. Great, well, I just want to check in online again one more time. If anyone who's not here in the room wants to go on camera, then we can see you, and I think you should be able to unmute yourself. Anyone? Okay.
I don't have anything to add, but thank you for letting me be part of this.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, yeah.
Be a little bit redundant here, but I want to make a point. I think that whatever we do, our supports whatever the investment.
Great. Another vote for the data nerds. We heard the data nerds are here. Okay, great.
Data champions.
Data champions. That's right. Yeah. Okay, sounds good. Any last thoughts? You all are so efficient today. I mean, we might be able to leave early. So, okay. I'm seeing head nods in the affirmative for that. Okay, well, I'll hand it back over to you, Councilor Craddock. Thank you.
Well, I just want to say thank you so much. You've been flexible. You've been here. It's such a strange dynamic we're working in right now. Hybrid, in person, hybrid, whatever. So thank you so much for hanging in there with us and participating in these discussions. This is so important to set the framework for this 2023 Regional Transportation Plan. So thank you for your time today. I thank you, Brandy, for your support and your help. And so this is our last in-person discussion regarding the Regional Transportation Plan, the 2023. The next time we meet, we'll be focusing on our climate smart plans, but we'll be doing that virtually. So we'll allow you one less trip into either the Oregon Zoo or to Metro, but welcome and nice to have real people in the building. This has been we haven't had a lot of public access to the building for a long time. So you are the first. So thank you so much and robust discussions today. Have a good day.
Of course. Yeah, yeah. I was just gonna roll it up.
She was headed to the city council with it.
This is going down.
Oh yeah? Thank you. Yeah, my you should hear my mom's story.
Walking into the building with the I was like